Hey, welcome to the DrepandStone podcast, the podcast of true friends. Raise a glass and have a conversation. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kyle. Hey, Nick.
Kyle.
What do you want to drink?
Oh, buddy. I have here an American whiskey. This is an American whiskey made with straight rye, straight bourbon, and blended malt Scotch whiskey.
Straight rye, straight bourbon, and malted whiskey.
Yeah, this is a blend of all three of those.
Holy
this
moly.
is the High West Campfire.
Oh.
Yeah, this is bottled by the High West Distillery in Park City, Utah.
Super cool.
You know, when I think of Utah, I don't think of alcohol.
Yeah, I don't guess I do either.
But I can attest to the fact that all the High West products I've had, pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't hated anything by any means. I mean, I haven't had a lot. I've had the American Prairie.
Right.
I've had the, I want to say it was the double rye.
Yeah. There's a Boo Rye. There's also Midwinter's Night Dram,
Yes.
which is kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
And
I had
it's
an
up there in price, too.
It is.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to get it at MSRP
Yeah.
a couple of years back and didn't, and really regret it.
Yeah. I've heard good stuff. I'm a sucker for a good bottle, Kyle, as we know, and I like these bottles.
Do you? I would think this might be on your list of kind of boring wine bottles.
Okay. It seems like a boring wine bottle, but I mean, this thing is hefty. You know, it has that like hand blown kind of glass feel to it. Each bottle is a little bit different, and that is a thick bottle, buddy.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
and it's a little nitpicky. It's tall,
Yes.
so it's hard to fit on a shelf.
It does
but-
not fit on a shelf at all.
Yeah,
100% so. But I
good
like it.
juice.
I like it because of just, I don't know, the aesthetic that, it's like a bottle you'd have in a prairie. You know what I mean?
for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like
Old timey
belly up to the bar, pour me a shot of whiskey. It's like that kind of bottle.
Yeah.
Old cowboy.
There's a shitload of bottle words.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me speak your favorite language to you.
Whisper those sweet nothings.
I was going to write something cheesy about cowboys, campfires, and whiskey, but I figured you might be more interested in how campfire whiskey came to be. How you like it so far?
It's beautiful.
You're welcome. One morning at the Brooklotic Distillery, B&B, my wife and I smelled peat in the air. The great ladies that made our meals were simmering a bottle of peated whiskey and sugar. Later that night, they brought out a dessert of ripe honeydew drizzled with peated syrup. This was the most unusual, delicious, and memorable ending to a dinner I've ever had. The combination of melon and sweet smoke really worked. So, naturally, I thought, why not mix sweet bourbon and peat? The main flavor, or melody, is sweet honey from a ripe bourbon. The enhancing flavor, or harmony, is floral, fruity spice from a mature rye whiskey. The accent, Satchmo's gravelly voice, is smoke from a peated Scotch whiskey. The proportions, top secret. Campfire is carefully crafted from sourced whiskeys. So, as the sun sinks low and the cold settles in, grab a bottle of Campfire whiskey and gather around a blazing fire to warm up. Wind down your day, share stories, and deepen friendships. One taste of the sweet, spicy, and yes, smoky whiskey, you'll know how it got its name. We like to enjoy Campfire whiskey with s'mores or good-looking strangers. If you find yourself in Old Town Park City, you ought to come visit the High West Distillery and Saloon and get a taste of our Western hospitality and our crowd-pleasing victual.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love those bottle words.
Yeah, they're good.
I mean, that's a whole narrative on there.
It's a bottle book.
Yeah, they gave you the whole story.
For sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, now granted, this is sourced whiskey.
Sure.
Obviously, because they're, this is a big blend. So I wouldn't think this is, this would take a big establishment to be able to put together all of this stuff together from your own source.
Yeah.
But I wonder, it makes me wonder why, obviously, it being High West, they're sourcing all of this and putting it together.
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody's ever peated a bourbon.
I don't know.
Is peat considered part of the mash bill? Like it's
No, it's like an additive.
right.
Yeah.
So I wonder, if anybody's ever peated a bourbon.
I don't know.
Like why? I'm really interested to try
you
this
can do
to
it
see
to
what.
beers, so I mean, why not to bourbon?
Right. Like
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see what a rye bourbon Scotch blend does.
Yeah.
Should be interesting.
Let's get into it then.
Let's go.
All right.
Oh, deep pop from the shoes. Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. Color?
Whiskey colored. It is bourbon colored.
It's bourbon colored.
Well, to be fair though,
I poured you a big old pour.
yeah, you did. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
In our recent endeavors into Scotch
Yeah.
land,
Sure.
it's always a lighter color
For the most part, yeah.
almost always.
Pretty much.
Very few have we delved into that were dark. Boonhaven? Not really.
Not really.
So it's darker than most of the scotches that we've had.
Oh, for sure.
But at the same time, like, it's not Scotch light.
Yeah. There's no age statement, obviously, with being a blend too. Like, it doesn't necessitate one either necessarily, but but you know, with the blending too, I would kind of expect maybe a little bit darker because you're also, you know, trying to mix these 3 different whiskeys together.
Right.
You know, there it is.
There it is.
What do you got on the nose?
Man, I mean, it's literally exactly like what I expected. I'm getting bourbon.
Yep.
And I'm getting Scotch.
That's exactly.
It's a blend.
It's a quintessential bourbon and Scotch. You got the peat. It's there. Like,
it's there. It's not a punch. It's just kind of like,
it's subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like
hanging around the edge of it.
Yeah. It's kind of taking the bourbon sweet and like just kind of holding it there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You know, we've said before, like, you know, the peat, you acclimate to it.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and everything else starts kind of coming forward. I'm wondering if that's going to happen here really quickly, though. Just almost like a couple sniffs and peat's gone.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like I'm already kind of there.
Yeah, it's already kind of there. Like, you definitely get on the first couple of sniffs here, but then the really nice bourbon notes, like that honey, like warm honey, round honey, leather bourbon notes, just like, you know, just like really pop through. And I got to tell you, though, I am getting a little bit of a spicy edge on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, maybe it's just because I know there's rye in it. I'm kind of looking for that spicy note, but
Right.
It's definitely there, but it's like in the periphery. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like the Wee Beastie Ardbeg where it just like punches you with cracked pepper. It's like just, it's on the edges.
Right. I forget what it was we said recently that had a smoked honey. I want to say maybe it was the Wee Beastie.
It might have been. Or maybe just the regular Ardbeg.
It would have been. It might have just been the regular Ardbeg.
Yeah.
But this is reminiscent of that, of having that, like, honey's coming forward.
Yeah.
Kind of smokiness, but there is very much like, you know, I don't know if I'm just playing into the branding and the marketing scheme, but it's like dusty and it's kind of cowboyish.
I agree.
I kind of feel like you're out on the prairie.
It's unrefined. Like, there's that. Like,
Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, what's the word? Unrefined is good. It's
untamed.
rustic.
Ooh, there's the bottle. That's the bottle word I was looking for earlier.
Yeah.
Rustic.
Yeah. That's what's kind of coming through. I'm digging it. Let's
Yeah,
go in.
Me too. Going in.
Man, it's more Scotch than I expected.
I just got like a fistful of pepper thrown in my face.
You know, I mean, balance-wise, I was expecting more bourbon, rye forward.
Me too.
Little touch of Scotch, but like, man, that smoke is powerful.
That first sip, that first punch is Scotch. Like, it is unmistakably Scotch, but it does mellow out a little bit.
It does.
And then you get the sweet. You get the. I still get that pepper. That pepper on the corner.
There's a spice note.
There is.
That pepper comes through.
Yeah.
All the way through.
I mean, the mash bill. They say the mash bill's, you know, top secret. I'm sure someone's come up with a mash bill, but the rye must be just high enough where you can definitely taste some of the peppery there.
After a couple of sips, I'm wondering, like, why this is not a more common blend.
I agree.
It's pretty fantastic.
It's literally like, dare I say, all the good parts of those whiskeys.
Right.
I mean, you get the slight campfire peat burn with the Scotch. You get the nice, like, just honey caramel mellowness of the bourbon. And then you just get the periphery of the spice of the rye.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they could have just said that. I mean, they kind of did.
Brilliant.
But they could have just said that, and like, you've literally hit this whiskey on the nose.
Right. You know, what do you love about all of these things? Here you go.
That's what this is. I mean, man,
it's almost like too much of a good thing. They don't overshadow each other. They just they're perfectly balanced together.
And that's exactly what I like out of this. I mean, and again, it could be me just also playing into marketing, but it is harmonious. You get all of those layers, and each one will stand out on its own, but it just totally works as a blend.
For sure.
I mean, and you know, we kind of dog on sourced whiskeys, but this totally works.
Yeah, but you know, when it's done well, ain't nothing wrong with it.
I mean, there are plenty of even big whiskey makers that are sourcing whiskeys in order to create blends like this.
What's the proof?
I'm glad you asked. What do you think it is?
All right, give me a second.
Yep.
All right, so I mean, I'm just basing this off like the 90 that we just had.
Sure.
It feels higher than that.
Okay.
I'll say 100.
This comes in at 46 ABV, 92 proof.
92.
Yeah. I feel like the spicy note comes in for me because of like I'm looking for that peat and like,
Right.
I'm getting the spice, maybe attributing some of the peatiness to some proof, maybe.
Right.
I do feel like it's higher, but I appreciate where it is.
I do too. Like I'm attributing it the little proof punch in that spice. What I'm thinking is the rye coming through at the end.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just kind of riding the coattails of the proof.
Ooh.
And it feels like that's just it. It's that giving you that bite, that little extra kick towards the end.
Now that you say that makes a lot of sense. Like whatever that rye percentage is just enough to kind of like, okay, and here's some spice along with what's going on. Yeah.
Right.
I have one other bottle of High West, and I like it. I like what I have, which is just a prairie bourbon.
Right.
And I like this too.
Certainly nothing wrong with it.
No, there's not.
Like it's just impressive that it can really honestly have so much going on, and it's all so forward.
Yeah.
Like the sweet is forward, the smoke is forward, the spice is forward. Like it's amazing that all of those things don't just kind of like overwhelm you and just kind of be like, oh, it's too much.
Yeah.
Like it's all there, and it's all, I guess that might be like the one interesting thing about it is like it doesn't change. I feel like everything is forward and everything is there from the beginning to the end.
Yes. Yes.
So nothing kind of recedes or, kind of moves around.
Yeah. I would say that to me, if I were to look for a negative here, and maybe that's too much work, but I would say that may be the one negative is that like I like a whiskey that develops and changes.
Right.
And I'm getting all those great flavors that I love, but it is the same through.
Right.
It's not one note, which I really appreciate.
Right.
But you get the same, the same taste all the way through, and it's a great taste. I love that. It doesn't change or develop.
Right. It's not a roller coaster.
Not at all.
It's not going up and down with different flavor notes coming through.
Yeah.
It is kind of just, wee. But it's a good wee. It's good. It's a good wee.
Well, everyone likes a good wee.
Good long wee.
Unless you've been waiting too long, and then like it's the relief of like,
well, it's like just get out of me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, impressed.
Yeah, me too.
Good stuff.
This was actually a Christmas present.
Aw,
yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks.
Happy holidays. I mean, High West, they know what they're doing.
No, they do, and I like that they're some people try and hide the fact that they're sourcing. They don't. They're like, yeah, we're sourcing whiskey. We're blending our own stuff in it. They're also distilling their own stuff.
Right.
But
when it's done well,
exactly.
I've got no problem with it.
100%.
Whistle Pig does it.
Whistle Pig, and they do it well.
It's good stuff.
Exactly.
Got no problem with it.
This does it well.
High West. I mean,
no problem.
Honestly, like those are the two that like really stick out to me. Of like that and in the Scotch realm, Compass Box.
Compass Box also sources. Yeah.
Those are like the ones that like stick out in my head. Of they do it right.
Yeah.
It might be sourced, but they know what they're doing. They've got it going on.
100%.
I'm okay with it. And I'm behind it. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was just going to ask you that.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Ask me then.
What do you want to talk about?
So, in our deeper conversations where we delve into the deep depths of our minds.
Didn't we do that last week on the Soul episode?
Well, that was more of a review.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't necessarily like a deep introspective view of humanity.
That was fun though.
It was a good episode.
Yeah,
what a drink.
I know, what a drink. Hanging out with Cameron, that was a lot of fun.
Good stuff.
All right, so
so it's 2021.
It is.
It is.
You
you would still think we're still in 2020. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at all the craziness going on. We just had the Capitol rushed a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm watching videos. I'm listening to takes on it and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I guess in some of these insights that I've found, an interesting take on it, somebody making the point of nihilism.
Okay.
And how that leads to like a search for understanding.
Absolutely.
And trying to understand like how something like this could happen.
Right.
Understanding how, I guess, nihilism can lead to such an event.
Sure.
For people who are looking to have an understanding where they find themselves, compelled to do something like that.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an interesting take of like, where nihilism leads people to, believe kind of crazy things.
Sure. When we talk about nihilism, or that word nihilism, or for our friends across the pond there, nihilism, or nihilism.
Nihilism.
That was such a good accent. And now we've lost all of Great Britain.
Oh, sorry guys, we're awful at this.
It's just like
Those fuckers just blend our scotch with bourbon. We're done.
we're out. It's that belief of nothing matters. There is nothing. There's no point.
Right.
To
No
anything.
value in anything.
Yeah. Life has no meaning.
Right.
And like it's not even like the existentialist version of it's like the negative of all of that. It's like life has no meaning. Why try?
Right.
Like that's what nihilism is.
Right.
And I know that there's philosophy professors listening to us now of like, you guys totally butchered that.
Well, the interesting thing of it to me is, obviously, like you could have like extreme nihilism,
Sure,
where you have no value in anything. But I think you can have like kind of situational nihilism,
Yeah.
of like this aspect, like I used to have a great value for this, now I don't, and I don't understand. I caught myself believing in this thing that I no longer believe in anymore.
Right.
So I have a kind of a categorical nihilism,
Sure,
or situational nihilism. I still have values here, and here,
right,
in this aspect, maybe economically or politically, but
right,
like over here in this particular thing, I'm lost,
right,
and I'm looking, philosophically, perhaps.
So that's kind of that's actually heading in the direction of my answer to what you brought up of like where all of this, ultimately your question was, how do we get here? In terms of like stuff at the Capitol, where we are politically, where we are as a country in terms of America, this just diametrically opposed versions of politics. And I think it starts actually when humans kind of become sentient. I'm going way back.
Oh boy.
Let's go to the way back machine. Ready?
All right.
When we become sentient as humans, we're kind of looking around the world and we're seeing these things that we don't understand.
Sure.
We don't understand the fire in the sky. We don't understand those tiny, fireflies in the sky. We
Right.
don't understand how the animals got here, how we got here, things of that nature.
Right.
Which is ultimately wrapped up in like our survival. So as we've gone further, as we've developed, we've become less survivalist and more complacent, maybe. I don't know if maybe complacent, but
I think totally.
Okay.
It's no longer survivalist. It's just kind of like everything's provided
right
in a way so that like, if everything is provided, meaning tends to lack. You
correct.
You need to find meaning.
So as knowledge has progressed, we've learned more about those things.
Right.
It's not fire in the sky. It's the sun. We're not the center of the universe. We're, the third planet from the sun.
Right.
We're in a nondescript solar system, in a
right.
Surrounding a nondescript sun, in a relatively nondescript, section of the
heavily
galaxy.
Populated version or place in our galaxy.
Correct. So, heavily populated. That goes back to our aliens episode. Do we know?
Are we?
So with our knowledge and understanding as it's grown, it's kind of easy to see those belief systems being challenged.
Right.
And I think that's kind of ultimately what your question comes to is what happens when our belief system is challenged.
Right.
And I think there's almost, I don't want to boil it down as we've talked in the past to like two different things, but I kind of see as like when that belief system doesn't hold true, or worse, it falls away completely, among the several choices, two of which are to like form a new belief system.
Right.
Or give up on belief systems totally and completely. And that's part of like the nihilist, umbrella
right.
of belief.
Right. I think it's like once you enter into that nihilistic void of, I thought I understood things. Now I'm questioning it. And, I feel like it's kind of a dangerous point 100%. At that point in time. It's like, you can be given a bit of information that you work out to be true.
Yeah.
And in your search for understanding and information, because you found that one thing to be true, I can believe everything from that.
Exactly.
And it's like, all right, I'm 100%, I am all in here.
Yep.
That's where the possible
Well, I think that's where the crisis
gaslighting
can
happen.
Possibly. But I think that's where the crisis, it's in that where the crisis happens. And I know like that term crisis feels like this like big issue, but I think what I mean by crisis is like, you know, I've some sort of opposition, something that stops me in my tracks and says like, okay, what do I believe? How do I believe this?
Right.
And you know, we're living in an age where we have access to so much knowledge.
Right.
And it's become now so much, so quickly, so readily available that it's kind of a power grab as to what knowledge is quote unquote correct knowledge.
Right.
And, you know, we're seeking information.
For example, was watching a YouTube video earlier today. It was all about vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, obviously interesting thing happening right now. Big, huge vaccine push.
Right.
And it
Timely.
was talking about kind of like the history of vaccines.
Right.
And it was talking about how one of the earliest, not necessarily versions of a vaccine, but kind of like the you know, first examples of people trying to take a version of an illness and have that build your immunity to said illness was back in the past. And it was in China maybe, but it was they would take old scabs from people who were sick,
delicious,
grind it up, and basically snort it. And that was kind of like the first instance of like introducing this into a system to help build an immunity.
Sure.
And my daughter was sitting, you know, near me as I was watching this video, and she's like, "Oh my God, that's disgusting! Like, why would anybody like? How could you ever get to the point where you would think that that's something that you wanted to do?" And I was like, "Yeah, but like your understanding of science and technology at your age already as a teenager has already surpassed, you know, a great deal of what humanity as a whole understood at that time period."
Absolutely.
So your understanding of things is at such a different level. Like, you know, it made sense for them at that point in time.
Yeah, and you know that's part of also just understanding. Like,
I think you made such a good point at the beginning that I hadn't really thought about.
I did.
Yeah,
no,
you did. Of having so much explained, it's like having too much knowledge.
Yeah.
Can be a bad thing. Of having so many of your needs already taken care of, how that can remove meaning and purpose in your life. Because, like, you know, if you're no longer a survivalist,
sure,
all those needs are taken care of, so then where do I put my focus?
Right.
And I think a lot of people just struggle with that.
So I'm not trying to come to an answer with, you know, what's going on in our country politically, you know, philosophically.
Yeah, we try not to go into those avenues.
I don't necessarily want to come to an answer, but you know, in what's going on, I think there's such a.
But I think there is a failure in not looking at those things too.
Absolutely,
it's better to understand and just kind of be informed about said things. And to not ignore or, you know, dismiss in any way.
So here's how I kind of look at it. Like, yes, back to that point of knowledge and like, you know, I asked for a small drink and you turned on a fire hose kind of thing. And that's exactly what's going on. But, you know, at some point as we grow older, our knowledge and understanding will be challenged.
Sure.
And when that knowledge is understanding is challenged, like I said earlier, then we kind of have to figure out who we are in that.
When that happens, it's terrifying.
Absolutely.
And
it should be to me. But go ahead.
You think?
I think so.
That's interesting. So I don't know where I fall on that. Like, I feel like you should encourage it.
Yes, I agree.
Because if you're confident enough in whatever that understanding is, you should be willing to put it up against the understanding of the opposite viewpoint.
I look at it as like Copernicus trying to tell the church that we are not the center of the universe.
Right.
And everyone else, absolutely not. No, we are. Like, God made us, and this is where we are.
How dare you even suggest?
And then, you know, the kind of like, no, I know this to be true in that. It's that like that realization, that struggle to me in order for it to be worth it, it has to be a crisis. Now, I think unfortunately, a lot of people never get past that crisis and they live in that crisis.
Right.
I'm not a parent.
Sure.
From, what I know of my friends that have children, some of parenting.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Some of parenting is my kid has a problem. My kid comes to me with the problem. I solve the problem.
Right.
That's part of it. But eventually my kid will come to me with a problem that I cannot solve. And what do I do in that moment? Because like I've met my limit. I can't solve my kid's problem. I can't do anything for my kid. So now my kid has to exist in that struggle. So rather than allowing people to exist in that struggle, a lot of what happens is nothing.
I think such a difficult aspect of parenthood is deciding what problems you're going to let your kid face.
Interesting.
There are obviously lessons that have to be learned.
Sure.
Any lesson that you can learn on your own is going to be better than a lesson that you're taught.
Right.
It's going to mean more to you.
Absolutely.
It's going to be ingrained more. Like, it's one thing, I guess, to understand a problem, but it's another thing to work through a problem. And that's, as a parent, like, that is such a difficult kind of tightrope to walk of what problems do you give your child to have them overcome, and what problems do you attempt to teach them
right.
the correct answer to,
and what do you just solve right away,
and what do you just not even make it an issue for them,
right?
Hunger. we don't let them have that problem. We solve that problem for them for their entire life,
right?
So
or we head in that direction at least as best we can,
or do you go the other way? And it's like relationships,
right?
You can't solve that one for them.
Yeah,
they have to kind of figure that kind of stuff out for themselves.
So people hate being uncomfortable. I mean, just in general, like our general like stasis is comfortability, satiated, and just feeling good. People hate to
all
be
the
uncomfortable.
time. We just want to feel good all the time.
Exactly. So why I say like that crisis, and it has to be a struggle, and why I say that crisis is so good is because even over the last like 10 years, I've seen people hit that limit, hit that wall that I talked about earlier that you were saying, with parenting, how do you judge that tightrope? They hit that wall, and then they expect the world, they expect everybody around them to solve for them. And then ultimately, it doesn't create better problem solvers. It doesn't move culture forward. It doesn't move society forward. It just creates complacency.
Right.
And, I don't want to point to media and say it's all media's fault, because maybe that's a fair degree of scapegoating. But in our current present media consumption, that's what media is doing. It's I don't even want you. I want to remove all choice from you, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you want.
Right. And what to think.
Yeah. And you're not going to struggle through it, because I'm going to give you exactly what you want and exactly what I want you to think. So there's no struggle. There's no there's no trying to figure it out yourself, and no problem solving. So when you have that struggle, people lose their fucking mind.
Right.
And
or no, yeah, like you've told them, that there is no problem. Here's the solution to the problem. I've got all the answers. Answer. Problem, I got you covered.
Exactly.
And then they are actually faced with a problem.
Exactly.
And they don't know how to fucking respond to it.
And that's what I'm saying. Like once that belief system is then challenged, and the belief system is based on like the problem's being solved.
Right.
Like everything's being taken care of. Like things are happening for me. People are doing things for me. So once that problem is then solved.
Or even worse, there's a problem, but I'm assured it's going to be taken care of for me.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I can just sit back. It's not going to be a problem. Inevitably, it's a problem, and you have to do something about it.
Right.
And now what's your mindset? Are you equipped to handle that problem in a rational way?
So this is kind of the idea from which your impetus for this discussion kind of generates, is that you have the rise of political ideas, or the rise of any religious ideas, or culture-based ideas. People are there to question those ideas. People are there to respond to those ideas, and this doesn't necessarily mean that like one idea is better than the other, because you have ideas that are being built up, questioned, torn down, and then other ideas being built up, questioned, and torn down. That should be the natural state of things.
Should be. Yes.
So when you have the
ongoing process,
when you have the direct diametrical opposition to that, that's where those people who are willing to question, willing to build up and tear down and build up and tear down, that's when like you just brick wall. And,
right.
And what do you do? How do you approach that?
Yeah. I mean, there's not much that you can. I mean, you just have to hope at that point in time where we live in a society of civilized, understandable people.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't.
Can I bring up the father of nihilism?
Sure.
I brought him up last week. I feel like I'm on a Nietzsche kick. So we all know that Nietzsche is famous for the quote, God is dead.
Right.
Like that's kind of like the quote that people that don't even know philosophy, know
that
Nietzsche.
made Nietzsche.
Right. God is dead. Yes, Nietzsche was an atheist. Yes, Nietzsche did not like organized religion. But what he's talking about in terms of God is dead is not necessarily God in this like religious sense. It's God is dead in terms of belief system. Like, and this was in the late 1800s,
right,
where he was looking at the world saying a belief system is no longer sustainable. A belief system is dead. So for him, culture was the ultimate belief system. It's
right.
the belief in the humanities, the belief in art, the belief in literature and music. And I think that that's part of where the de-evolution for us has occurred, is that, again, it's all curated. It's all given to us. Right. There's no exploration there.
There's no earning.
You don't have to earn anything. It's all given to you. Maybe that's an argument for,
anti-socialism.
Sure. Or universal basic income or things like that. But you have these, like, again, those oppositions that rise out of not being able to confront a difference in opinion.
Yeah. And it's, I know personally, I look at my YouTube feed and I try as best as I can to at least, I have my philosophy on things.
Sure.
That 100%, like, I know this creator might make a video. I'm going to watch every one of them because I'm digging what they're saying. I've got a history of watching their videos that I like the content for. But I do my best to seek out the opposing view.
Sure.
Because it does me no good to ignore it. Because I've gone through enough situations where I've been opened up to a different perspective and found value in it. But more or less, just because like to ignore that also completely makes you unable to understand that perspective and react to it in any way.
It undermines growth.
Sure.
I mean, and that's kind of what I'm getting at here, is that when you are unable to consider another opinion, then you're just cutting yourself off.
Right.
You're ultimately playing into like what began this conversation. You're playing into the meaninglessness.
Right.
You're playing into the nihilism.
Right.
You're saying that none of this matters. You're kind of saying that a difference in opinion or even a difference in things that like make us who we are as a country or make us who we are as humans, even
the more you think you've got it figured out and you start to close off your mind,
yes,
the more closed-minded you become.
100% so.
And the more opportunity to miss something you've made yourself.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's that cutting oneself off from everything else. And this is where cults come from. This is where domestic and foreign terrorism comes from. It's just like everything else is wrong and I am the only thing that's right.
Right. I've got it figured out and that's the only solution. That's never the case.
It's never the case. And I think that's, going back to these philosophers, that's ultimately what they would say, is that we kind of get to decide what is right and wrong. We kind of get to decide, back to our conversation from last week, we kind of get to decide what is meaningful. Not everyone, however, is equipped to do so.
Right.
Not everyone has experienced enough of those crises that we talked about where they're equipped to, that's kind of belittling, and I understand that, but they're not equipped to make those decisions.
Right. I don't feel like at any point should you feel so confident in your beliefs that you can just shut out all other noise.
Yeah.
And stop taking in information. It doesn't do anyone any good, including yourself.
To me,
especially yourself.
That's where the belief system has failed. Like when you are so unable to look outside of that belief system and even consider another point, that's where the belief system has failed you.
Right.
And I think back to the point of like evolution, it's about evolving in terms of knowledge and understanding. It's about, taking that belief system and saying, okay, what other new knowledge can I add to it? Not just science of, now we know more about vaccines and now we know more about viruses and now we know more about, heart conditions.
Right.
It's adding all of that information and developing more. It's about moving forward.
I look at it like sports almost, of like, if you're confident that your team is the best, then you want your team to go out and play every other team to prove it.
Right.
You want the opportunity to show that your team is the best.
But it's
I
also
want my team to go to the playoffs.
But it's also the willingness to understand, what if my team is bested?
Right.
What if my team
well, then we have some things to learn. We have some things to improve upon.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I believe so fervently that my team is the best, and they weren't. Okay. That's fine. Now what do I learn from that? And I think
we don't burn down that other team
right
for being better.
Right. We learn from them.
We say, well, you know what? They were better today. We need to go work harder and learn from this and improve.
And there's nothing wrong in the moment being angry. Like I don't think either one of us are eschewing anger. It's not what this is about. What this is about reflection and learning. We were bested. Right. Or that team is better than we are, or, we didn't win that thing, or my belief system is maybe not tolerant of other things. It's
okay to be angry for a time, but allow yourself the opportunity to learn from it and grow from it. Because if you don't, you're just, again, you're never going to get better.
I don't know if this is a good point to end on, but have you ever seen the videos of like gorillas or orangutans or chimpanzees being shown magic tricks? I know this is a weird note. I know,
like a little bit, not like I don't have a great knowledge of it.
There's this really cool video that's been circling around for a couple of years of like, it's a gorilla being shown a magic trick by I feel like a kid, like a little kid, or maybe like a like a young adult, and like the ape just freaks out, loses its mind. And then it's kind of like you can almost see the thought process of like, show me that again.
Right.
How'd you do that?
Right.
And I think, again,
as opposed to like the videos of like the dogs, the people hold up the sheet, they throw up the sheet, and then they run out the door, and then when the sheet falls, they're gone. The dog just like, but they don't ever try to figure out what happened.
No, they just stop.
It's just like done.
Yeah, mind blown. I can't learn anything from that.
Yeah, it's like, well, time to go eat.
And to be fair, obviously capacities of great apes versus dogs, brain capacity,
slightly different.
But to some degree, the point stands of you saw a magic trick, your mind was blown. What are you going to learn from that?
Right.
Or you saw a magic trick, your mind was blown. You can do nothing.
Yeah.
I believe in humanity enough to like, what's going on there? How did that change? What can I learn from this? So I think ultimately the takeaway, not only from, maybe our conversation, but the experience in general, is don't rob yourself of the ability to confront opposition and opinions and confront that uncomfortable crisis.
Right. And don't devalue your opportunities to learn, to grow.
Absolutely.
Relish in that.
Take stock in it.
Yeah, take every opportunity you can to figure out what's going on, learn from it, and improve from it. It's never so bad that all hope is lost.
No.
That's not going to happen. We don't live in that world.
Right.
Take the opportunity.
Yeah, it goes for everything. It goes for all facets of life. We talked about soul last week, of like maybe the point or some of the theme of that film is, not necessarily looking for the end, but relishing in where you are.
Right.
And I think that that's part of the nihilistic perspective that people are missing is, relishing where you are and taking stock of that.
Right. And
learning from where you are and willing to grow from there. I mean, that's the whole point of this is how boring to be rooted in one thought and one opinion for your entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, be challenged.
Yeah. What was your favorite drink 5 years ago? Imagine if that's what you were still drinking today, and you had only drank that since then.
Oh, poor Basil Hayden.
Yeah. Or maybe you'd just be so blissful that you'd have no clue.
Maybe that's
Just
it.
so
too.
happy with it.
No, on that note, you got anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. We want to know your opinion on the High West Campfire if you've had it. I quite liked it.
Or yeah, what's your favorite High West
Ooh, that's a good
expression?
one. Have you had the Midwinter's Night Dram?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard nothing but great things about that.
Yeah. You can get in touch with us through email. That's DrepandStone@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us across all social media.
It's always one word, DrepandStone, DREP and Stone. You come find us, you like us, we like you right back. We'd like for you to share something. Give us a thumbs up, star it, 5-star it if you can.
That's the best. Also, if you feel so inclined, give us a rating wherever you find Drep and Stone. And also, you can support us through our Buy Me a Coffee page. That's buymeacoffee.com/DrepandStone.
Buy me a dram,
Pint,
whatever you got.
bucket, bottle,
Barrel.
gallon. Ooh, barrel's good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Keg.
Even better. Hey, buddy. May your glass overflow.
And your ass never show. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Richard, are you ready?
Hey.
And because of how echoey it is, yeah.
Get it in real tight.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Nice.
Prairie dog.
Prairie dog.
Drinking that prairie dog piss.
Prairie dog companion.
Schmutz on the outside of this glass. Smelling the mic instead. Punches you with cracked plepper. Joanna Gaines would have a field day with this bullshit.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm using my hands a lot. I think that whiskey's getting to me.
Well, I can't find my food.
It's in the oven.
Just tell me where the food is, damn it.